Hello, here comes a little video on tapestry weaving. We're going to start by setting up this loom. This is a nice little loom. I don't know, it looks like cherry, maybe, I'm not sure, but it was handmade by a local carpentress. And so yeah, I love these little looms. Here's a yarn that I'm going to use for the warp, and so the warp are all the threads that are running this way, so we're going to call that vertically, because that's kind of how we hold the loom in our hands anyways, or on our lap on a table. And so that's called the warp, and I'm going to start warping this loom. I'm making little kits, so if you have a loom or you order one from Small Acre Farms is the name of the business, and actually it's called Timber and Twine, is Teddy and Toots business. They have a couple businesses and make wonderful products and teach classes and dye fibers and all kinds of yummy things. And yeah, so we're gonna I'm gonna warp this loom right now. And if you get a little kit from me, you have everything you need. Fun yarn colors, it's gonna be a lot less than that. I'm still working on making kits, but I'll have some kind of natural colors. I always love bright colors, but I know I need to have some more subtle colors for everyone. So, and this warp thread is a it can be like a cotton or a linen, but something nice and strong and not too not too thick. Okay, so I am gonna start. I'm just gonna make a little band right here in the middle. Oops. I hope you can see like that. I'm gonna leave a longer tail, and we'll see later why I do that. I'm gonna go around one of these little grooves in the wood. Whoops. And I'm gonna tie a knot. The second knot I do has a little loop. Tu peux me chercher des ciseaux, mon cœur, s'il te plaît? Just so I can undo it later. So I'm just doing a nice little loop in the back so I can later take it off and show you what we'll do next. Merci, ma puce. Kind of looks like this, and it's temporary. Anything temporary, excuse me, temporary tie that you want to make is good. So then I'm going to try to find the opposite groove and, you know, on the bottom. So you can count your little dents here if you want to, and come up to the exact opposite one from the top, so it's nice and lined up. I'm just gonna visualize it and eyeball it this time, and then I'm gonna start going around these little pegs. I'm gonna show you again what they look like. See those little grooves? So I'm gonna go around those. Because I'm gonna take that one off later. Non, peut-être que je devrais pas faire ça visuellement. There you go. Okay, so I'm just going around these little pegs. just like this. They don't look perfectly even right now, but they'll even out as we start weaving. That's the most important right here. This looks a little uneven, but you can see that's what confused me a little bit when I started. But right here you go around a peg, and when you go around the peg you actually go in to the opening, into the groove that you came out of before. And so you might want to be tempted to go here, which is what I just accidentally did a second ago. But so you really do want to go back into the same groove as the one you came out of previously, and then come out the next one. And then same here, I'm going back in where I came out. I kind of can move the little thread if I want. Those grooves are pretty wide, which is why you have room for doing that, and you can go, I want to go around every peg. And I'm going to make a narrow piece, maybe like a bracelet or something like that, just for demonstration. And I recommend starting with something small anyways when we start, just to learn a lot and not make a big piece that could be discouraging later anyways. Ouais, t'as peut-être raison. Maybe I'll keep, it'll be like a wide bracelet. Okay. So then I'm going to come back in the same spot, same side as where I tied. That way I can tie those two threads onto each other. And oh, ce sont mes ciseaux, mon cœur. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to leave myself again plenty of room here, and I'm going to take off my previous knot one time, and then you could take it off the little peg. There you go. And then I'm gonna wrap these guys around on the side just so I have a good tension. I'm gonna go back behind this little piece here. I just want it to be nice and tight. There you go. And I'm gonna, again, I'm not gonna do a double knot. I'm gonna do a loop. This gets a little tricky because the tension is important, and so you wanna make sure that when you tie your second knot, like your little loop, that it is not too loose. The tension in weaving is very important. So I just tied a loop and then another loop on top of it. And so some of those threads might be just a little looser than others, and you can just gently, you know, pull on one and even out the tension. There you go. And the main thing is that you get a very similar tension throughout. It doesn't have to be very tight. It doesn't have to be very loose, but yeah, so just even throughout. So now that I've got my warp all set up, I'm going to start the weaving part. And I love using these little wooden needles for that. This one was made by Al Snipes. He's no longer making those, I don't think, but there are all kinds of other little wooden needles like that you can use. You can use metal needles, anything that allows you to go over, under your threads here to start weaving. And so that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna pick some yarn first. Pour faire quoi, mon gars? Ça dépend ce que tu fais. Ah bah oui. Ouais, tu veux celui-là? Ici. There you go. Tiens. So since I want to make, you know, maybe a little bracelet, this is just a demo, and as you weave you can think a little more about what you're going to make ahead, and there are so many details, you know, that go with so much fine-tuning you can do, and you know, thinking about how am I going to attach it later. If it's a tapestry that I want to hang on the wall, will I put a little piece of wood? And so we'll talk about that later. I'll do more videos about details like that, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same thread as I did in my warp, just to do a little base at the beginning. If it's going to be a bracelet or something like that, and I might want to add a little leather tie here, it might help me sew on, or it's a nice base, I think. Anyways, also to learn the basics of weaving. So I'm just going to cut maybe a yard or a little over a yard. The pieces I will have in the kit will be like that. There'll be a yard or 2 or 3, and then you can cut them if you don't want to use all of it. But okay, and I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go under the first thread, over the second one, under the third one, over, under, like this. Okay, so I'm gonna just keep doing that. J'ai presque fini encore, okay? I'm going to leave a little tail here, and when I go back at the very end, I finished on over. I went over the last thread, which means I'm gonna have to go under it this time. Over the second one, under the third, over, under, and so forth. Oops. That will all be dependent. You're not always gonna start with over or under always the same way. It just depends on where you start, how many threads you have basically. Do you have an even amount or an odd amount? I started on the top and I finished on the top when I warped, and it gave me, let's see, I'm going to count in just a minute, 2 and 3. So it gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 warp threads. So now we can say if it's an even amount of threads, like I have here. Then I'm gonna always start under on this side when I come back. But if I start on this side, it will be different. Thank you, Zora. So here's a little fork that I'm going to push my threads with. So I'll do this again, but it's very important on the edge not to draw in. So I'm going to start over. Here, basically, the rule is you don't have to worry about how many threads you have, so much as when you came out here, when I came out here, I was over the last thread, right? So it's kind of like a figure 8. Now I need to go under that thread. If I go back over, I'm going to undo my weaving basically. Okay, so I'm going to go under, over, and so forth, all the way across. Oops. And here, there are a lot of different methods on basically avoiding that hourglass shape. One of them is just to do what I'm doing right here, not tighten too much. You're always going to beat from where you entered to where you came out. And you can just beat lightly like that. And you can go back and beat again. So the idea is to keep this nice and loose on the sides. And if you go into an hourglass shape, that's okay. You know, I embrace it if I do. Because as we change colors, the next lesson I'll do will be on patterns and more colors. You might concentrate so much on this circular shape that you do, or this triangular shape you do in the middle or somewhere here, and then you forget that you have to leave the right amount on the sides. Okay, so that was my little introduction. I'm going to stop right here. And I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned. I will have more videos on weaving on this beautiful little loom. Bye.